Hey everybody, welcome back to this tutorial series, and today we're going to be doing shops and dialogues. So these are two aspects of Modera that are really important in the sense that they're really useful for interaction with players and different aspects, like maybe you want to choose roles, maybe you want to buy certain items, and it's just a really great way to engage users. So let's just start with the shop. So a shop is basically a creatable area that users can um, interact with. So let's call it food shop for now. Food shop. And you can give it a description if you'd like to. And you can write dismissible. So this dismissible category basically means if it's false, then users cannot exit out of the shop. So this is useful if you demand the user to pick a role. So maybe it's a role picking at the very beginning of the game, then you demand them to pick, then you make this false. But most of the time, I recommend true, otherwise users can't really play. And then let's give it a food shop cookie, and you can also sell unit types. So I encourage you guys to play around with what this does. Basically, when somebody purchases a unit, um, there is a script that's a trigger that's activated. So you guys can do certain things when certain units are bought. And then there's also CSS classes that you can use. Um, that's a code thing. So now you've created a food shop. So let's just go ahead and see what that did. If I'm in the shop, there's no real way to access it. So now we have to go back and see how to access the shop. What you do is you go to your unit that you want to access the shop, you go to controls, and you add a new key binding. So a key binding is basically a key. So let's just use this one since it's not being used anywhere. And during run script, when you press the key, let's just open a shop. So let's make a script that opens a shop. In order to do that, let's just make an entity script right here. Just press scripts, and then here we just press this, and then in the new script we just call it open shop. So then we just look for open shop, and you'll see when you press open, you'll see a lot of different options for things. So I encourage you guys to look at what these things all do. But right now we're just looking at open shop for player. So then we open food shop for, well, who? We're the owner of this entity. There you go. So now we can just save and apply. But what we want to do now is we want to go to the actual key binding and add that in. So then this script, we just run open shop. There you go. So now when you press B, it should open shop. And this right here, this E basically means the script that's enabled when you run the script that's run when you press down the key. So like mouse left click, when you press it down, you start using item. When you release it, you stop using item. So save and apply, and let's press B. So I'm pressing the key B, and it opens a shop. And you can see right here, this is the default shop with the default settings, and it's all customizable. So you guys can edit the styles if you'd like to. So right here, I can buy a cookie for free. So now I bought a cookie, and now I have a cookie. If I buy another one, you'll see that I have two cookies in separate slots. So now I can consume the cookie and I consume another cookie. And of course, bubbles are created whenever we click. So now that's how the shop works. But you might be wondering, okay, how do I make it so that when the player has score, then they can buy a cookie? Well, that's called a cost. And in order to add a cost, here's what you do. You go to shops, food shop, and you don't see any cost anywhere because you have to click on the item to add cost. Um, so here's what you do. You just press cookie, and there's a lot of different options. So let's just go through these um, default things down here first, because these are costs. So everything up here is advanced. We'll get there in a second. So default quantity, how much are you given? So do you want to be given 5 cookies when you buy it, or 1? So right now we just want 1, so that doesn't matter. Then the price, player attributes or item types recipes. So recipes are basically, maybe you want them to create um, maybe it's a cake. So in order to make a cake, you need to have dough and batter. So then here, the ingredients, you would put dough and batter items, and the user needs to have dough and batter in order to buy the cake, or I guess craft it. So price. there's a difference between price and requirements. Basically, price is um, going to take this number away. So if I put score costs 1, then it's going to take away 1 score every time. But requirement says that if you have, let's say, 1 score, at least 1 score, then it's going to only give it to you for free if you have at least 1 score. So requirements are really useful for things like prestige and things like that. Um, it looks like something went wrong with my editor, so I'll just save all my changes and reload. So if that ever happens, just go ahead and just reload. Hopefully that does not cause any large issues for any of you. But yeah, so what we want to do is we just want to set score value to 1. We don't really want to change anything else right now. So then we save and save. And now let's go check out the editor. Or check out the game. So now we have a cookie, let's just consume it. And let's press V for the shop. And right here, it says this is a cookie free. So that means that either something was not updated correctly or we need to republish. So this is correct. So let's go ahead and republish the game and see what happens. Alright, we are getting towards the end of this tutorial, and that is kind of exciting. Can't wait to see all the games that you guys create. Right, so now we press B, and now you notice this box is grayed out, and it's because it costs 1 score. So that means that we need to now enter a bubble. So I'm just going to enter a couple bubbles and wait until I see a box nearby me. So now you see a box here, so we can press the box or collide with it, and now we have 1 score. So now it costs 1 score. And you notice when we bought that cookie, our score went away. So essentially, we've created a way to buy cookies for a price. And you see right here, I just touched this wall and now I'm in a new state because that was the state script from last video. So now everything is kind of tying together and we see it all in this big project. Okay. And now let's talk about the advanced section of the shop. So let's just quickly go over it. Hide requirements if not met. So this means that if there's a requirement down here, so if you have to have at least 1 score for in order to have this item, you can hide it if you don't even have that requirement. That way, the shop is less cluttered. And then you can also hide if unaffordable, which means if you don't have 1 score, just hide it from the user in the shop. That's another way to make it less cluttered, but also it makes it more confusing for users because then they're going to see random items pop up. So make sure there's a way for them to understand that something's coming in the shop. And then display in shop. So this basically means, do you want to show this item in the shop or not? You can disable this if you are still testing the item and you don't want to use it yet. Or if it's a seasonal item and you still want to keep it there but you don't want it right now. And then replace item in target slot. That means if you have a fixed item slot you want this item in the inventory, then if you want it to replace the item that's already there. So maybe this is a really important item that the user needs to have, then you'd say true. But I would recommend you play around with this before you start using it. This is kind of a dangerous one right here. But yeah, that's basically shops. And so now we're ready to go on to dialogues. So I'm just gonna close this window and let's look at dialogues. So I'm gonna delete this old one because that was a couple of directions. But now what we're gonna do is create a dialogue. So we've been here before to just write some instructions for you guys, but now we're gonna explain what exactly this is. A dialogue is a modal that shows up for the user when prompted and run in this code, and it can be used to interact with the user and just kind of do different things. So let's give this a name to the dialogue. So we can call it my dialogue, and we can give this dialogue a title. So this is the title of the dialogue for the players. So this is the title of the dialogue in the code, and this is in the players. So we can just say welcome. So that's what the users will see. And then you could just say welcome to this test game for my YouTube tutorial. And I'll just put a little apostrophe thing. And so now there's an image you are optionally allowed to put. So for example, I'm just going to put a random image here. So I'm just going to upload an image really quickly and just show you that whenever you upload an image, it's just going to just put it there. So let me just go ahead and pull out an image. I'll put a basketball. So this is an image of a basketball. It's just arbitrary. It doesn't have to be anything specific. And so now you'll see right here, if it loads, there should be a basketball image right there. I'm not quite sure where it is, but yeah, so there should be a basketball image that shows up when we open this dialog. And this is letter print speed. So this is basically how fast do you want this dialog to show up. And if you put it to 0, it's just going to instantly show up. And then you have a couple options. If you don't add any options, then the dialog is just going to say, do you want to close this or not for the user. So I'm going to show you guys what this looks like first. But alright, so now we've created this welcome dialog. So what we should do is we should prompt the user when they join the game. So let's create a new world script. So every time a player joins, show them this dialog. Just prompt them with it. So let's go right here and then dialog. Just type dialog and you'll see open dialog. So then open my dialog for who? Well, the triggering player. So there's two options here. We created a unit, as you can see, last created unit. So you can type triggering player or you can type owner of last created unit. Since I'm sure you guys are going to probably do triggering player, I'm going to show you owner of last created unit just to show you that it works. So I actually recommend triggering player here, but I'm just going to show you this really quickly. Okay, now I'm going to refresh again. Now let's take a look. It should show us a dialog right here. So you see there's a basketball image and it says welcome to this test game for chess YouTube tutorial. There's no options, so it just says press enter / click to continue. So now we're here. So now let's go back in and add some options to the dialogues. So dialogues are one of the more straightforward things in this in mod.io, but they're really useful. So you can say hello, and you have options. When you run a dialogue option, you can run a script or you can have a follow-up dialogue. So follow-up dialogues, I'm sure you guys understand. That's just kind of a way to show another dialogue using a dialogue. So maybe you can have a storyline. And then running scripts, maybe you want them to choose box, and if they choose the box, then they're going to spawn as a box, and then this would be spawn as box script. But for now we just want to put hello, and so we save and we save, and so all we got to do is just refresh again and see what happens. You see right here it says hello now instead of enter. Click to continue. So if I click anywhere, it doesn't let me do anything, but if I click this option button, it's going to let me do this. Now there's one last thing we got to cover with dialogues, and then we're pretty much done with this video. What we're going to do is we're going to attach a script and show you what that does. So, similar to entity scripts, a dialogue script, you want to actually separate that into a folder because dialogue scripts are kind of unique from everything else. Let's just create a new script and put it in this dialogue scripts folder. There we go. And so, welcome. Alright, so a nice format to name your dialogues is name it the name of your dialogue right here, and then the option with a dash. So then dash hello, and you can put this in quotes if it's kind of confusing. And if you have long option names, you can just write like an abbreviation. So now there's no triggers you have to do because if you look, there's no dialogue. So you might be confused. Okay, wait, what do we do then? Well, this is similar to entity scripts, like I said, and the way it's similar is there's a parameter that's given to you automatically called um, last player selecting a dialogue option. So let me just show you that using a chat message. So let's just send a chat message to a player, and let's just send welcome. So it's only going to send this message after we press hello, and you'll see that. And it's going to send it to, this is where you check. So instead of last triggering player, we go to last player selecting a dialogue option. So that means this trigger, this is not a trigger, but instead this is a parameter, and this is given to us for free whenever we run the script using a dialogue. So now let's go to our dialogue right here, and then hello, and then instead of none for run script, we press dialogue hello. So see how these match? It just makes it a lot easier when you are editing things. Alright, so now we can just go ahead and refresh, and we're gonna see a chat message played this time. Alright, so when I press this button, it's gonna say hello in the chat, or welcome. Um, oh wait, I think I forgot to save my changes. Oopsies. Alright, let's just go ahead and save our changes. So yeah, as you can see, I kind of lost the dialog script, so I'm just gonna say my dialog hello. I'm gonna omit the quotes for now, it's gonna be no issue. Um, yeah, so while that loads, there we go. We can just say dialog scripts. Okay, there we go. And now we can just say chat message player, welcome to last player selecting the dialog option. So now we have to save. Don't forget to save, guys. Alright, now we refresh, see what happens. Alright, so now it should say welcome when we press this button right here. See, there's no welcome message yet. Let's wait a couple seconds just to confirm that. But now when I press this, immediately we are given a welcome function. Oh, and I forgot to attach the script. So yeah, there's a lot of things to remember with dialogues, but just remember the process. And if you ever forget it, just come back here and see if anything that I made a mistake on is similar to what you're making a mistake on. Okay, so now it should work. When I press hello, you see it says welcome. There we go. Yeah. Alright, so yeah, that's basically all of dialogues. So if you guys have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments or visit mod.io Discord server for help. And that's all. See you guys.